Okay, so today I am joined by Helen Gregory from Opus Forensic Accounting, and I'm just going to open up with Helen, forensic accounting. Talk to me about that.
Hi, Helen. Thank you for having me. This is my pet topic, and yeah, I can talk for hours of forensic accounting and all the different cases I see. But to keep it brief, what is forensic accounting? It's basically numbers and anything that is going to court or may well end up in court. So it's me standing in a witness box, either swearing an oath or attesting to say that I give my honest opinion and it's an expert opinion. So it's not to say what I've seen necessarily, it's interpretation of facts.
They're very
So
litigation focused.
very litigation focused. Nearly everything we look at, it has got that hat on it. Hopefully, and in most cases, they settle before they get that far, but it could be settling via mediation, settling in front of a judge, settling just a judge in a private hearing. It could be arbitration, anything like that. And it could just, and hopefully, it is done between solicitors talking to them, talking to their counterparties. So it's very rare that I actually have to actually stand up in court.
But put the options there if needs be.
The option is there if needs be. And yes, it does happen.
Is it
Um,
nerve-wracking? Is it nerve-wracking standing in the witness box?
it is because you are surrounded by very clever barristers who are trying to get you to say what they want you to say. And sometimes it's not necessarily case related. So they will even pick holes in your CV if that's where they think they can score points to undermine your credibility, perhaps, or just to rattle you. So you come up with an answer that they would rather have than the one you've given previously. So,
And you
yes,
stand firm.
you stand firm, yes, and just try and remember what you wrote. Often 5, 10 years before. I think that was probably one of the worst. You write the
Really.
report so long ago, you do the analysis so long ago, and then suddenly you get this call. Remember that case? Yeah, and you have to refresh your memory.
Yeah.
Yes,
So, if very litigation focused, are we talking civil litigation, criminal litigation, both?
both, both. So it could be normally it's civil, but if somebody is accused of stealing something, then it could be criminal. So it's siphoning off funds off a bank account. It could be standing up in court saying, yes, that 100,000 went from account A to account B. And then the person who's accused of theft, they spent it on whatever they spent it on. So, yes, it could be.
Yeah, I know. I think in in the world I occupy, it's that. Well, I thought I could just spend mum's money because I had I've got power of attorney, and you're like, yeah, this is the key point is it's your mum's money, it's
Yes.
not yours.
Or even I thought I would invest it in the stock exchange because you can't get a very good rate of interest at the
Yeah,
bank,
yeah,
and
no
then the
problem at
money's
all.
all gone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just like it is unbelievable, isn't it? That sort of, and I find it really strange in this, just talking about the sort of vulnerable client power of attorney space, the deputyship space. Possibly deputyship's a bit easier because you've got the ability, or you have to do annual reporting. So things do get picked up, and we are seeing things like the Office of the Public Guardian going, oh, you do realise you've done that all wrong. You now need to retrospectively deal with it. I think the power of attorney piece for me is a bit like the Wild West. That
Mm.
these powers of attorney are being created right, left, and centre. It's dead easy to create them online,
Mm.
and you've got this piece of paper that the bank then it's sort of like almost just gathers momentum like a snowball, and you think nobody's telling you at any point, but what you should be doing. And I was talking to somebody about this, and they were like, "Well, hang on, I want power of attorney for my mum," and I go, "Well, that's nice. What does mum want?" First conversation, and they were like, "Well, I don't understand why I can't just do this," and I think there's a huge gap in my head, like it's theft. You've taken money that's not yours. It's theft. And I don't know whether that's just because I'm a lawyer or innate sort of understanding, but it's a really strange space, this financial abuse attorneys thing. And I know we've talked about it before, but you
Yeah,
must see it.
but it seems like claiming expenses to go and visit your mum because you're looking after a house. And it's like, but you were going to visit your mum.
Mhm.
So weren't you going anyway? So why are you claiming it to go the flight to go and visit or the mileage or your
Yes.
time in dealing with her estate? What the time at my normal charge out rate?
Yeah.
Most estates couldn't cope with things like I'm not that we're expensive, but that would just take away too much money. Or should it just be a tenner here or a bunch of flowers there? But when does a bunch of flowers become two bunches, becomes a bottle of champagne?
Yeah.
And all the time it's your mum's money.
Yeah. And so they're doing stuff with Step campaign financial abuse recently, and one of the things we were sort of not half joking about, but actually it's sort of quite indicative. It's that, oh look, mum's bought a lawnmower, mum doesn't have a garden.
Yes.
And mum is now shopping in Waitrose, was shopping in Tesco's, or was shopping in Waitrose and is now shopping in Tesco's. And that shift in dynamic that you see is very interesting.
Yes. And you can understand it if the adult child is doing their own weekly shop and then adding mums on and perhaps, separate bit on the conveyor belt. We've all seen that where somebody has two loads of shopping.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I mean, yeah, I'd have loved to have taken my mum's credit card and gone to Waitrose, but it just would never have sat right.
No, and I think sort of inevitably, given the role of what you do, that you would always consider, hang on, is this appropriate? Is this right? No, and it's one of those. It doesn't feel right, does it? Let alone it isn't
No,
right. But I'm endlessly fascinated in the sort of, I suppose it's the psychology of the individual who just goes, oh, it's just on paper. It doesn't really
mm,
feel like money. And I guess if you're doing retrospective, trawling through accounts, bank statements, spreadsheets, what do you think it is? Do you think it is that sort of it doesn't feel like real money, like monopoly money, because it's just numbers on a page, or because rather than like if you're doing it with 50 notes, does it feel all real?
I think there is an answer, a feeling of mum would have wanted me to have it anyway. So you're taking it early out the estate, even if it is just a bar of chocolate put onto mum's shopping trolley, which nobody would argue with particularly, but it's when that gets bigger than a bar of chocolate and becomes that bottle of champagne, for example.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a sense of injustice that the individual who's got all this control, well, surely they deserve something because it's taking up however long it is to look after mum, even if she's in a care home. Well, I wouldn't go and visit her every week if she was just at home,
Yeah.
but she's dying. She's in a care home. She needs the care. And in the meantime, you feel that you can claim mileage or taxi fares from train fares to go and visit her. I just don't get it. Don't get it.
No, I don't get it, and I genuinely don't. And yet we are seeing that all the time. Whether it's that, preferably clients coming in and going, look, dad didn't get his affairs in order because he was a reluctant engager
Yeah.
in professional um, advice. Kids are going, we think now we can tie things up better for him. So applications for gifting and what have you, the court protection's fine. It's the retrospective ones, aren't they? Where it's like, oh, I've had to, I've suddenly been asked to do this.
Mm,
And it's the genuine bafflement. People go, I just did not realize I couldn't just take that money.
yeah.
And trying to then, and I suppose this goes back to your sort of being an expert witness litigation piece, isn't it? It's how do you build that picture back up for a transaction that took seconds? Online banking, boom, I just moved it. And because I had a case, and exactly that, I had a adult child who was attorney for dad, and in the client's head and the family's head, they'd all had the conversation at some point that it was okay to move tens of thousands of pounds out, and the bank stopped it. The bank went, "No, we're stopping the transaction, and we're reporting you to the OPG."
Wow.
Which I was like, "Oh, hang on, somebody's on the ball."
Yes.
And so I was involved at this point because this individual was a regulated professional as well, which is something I'm
Uh,
quite I was quite interested to sort of think, oh, hang on, those unintended consequences points. That, he was like, well, I did this because as a family we'd all discussed it and we all remember this being the conversation. And then it was trying to go back, find WhatsApp notes and scrappy bits of paper and trying to go, well, here's our best bet to do this. And this is somebody who's not in any way, shape, or form naive or stupid or ill-educated. Just genuinely thought because he could, get on the banking, move it.
mm,
And then it was so coming up to the regulated professional piece. I hadn't really given any thought to be honest. It hadn't occurred to me that actually he then had to report himself to his own body. And he was frantically going, "Oh, not only have I got this, but actually the consequences for me are that my regulated body is now getting a bit twitchy about what I've done." And I thought, interesting.
I mean, I have to say, when I've signed 4 probate forms in my, it's going off to get your inheritance tax going. I have just panicked every single time I've had to put my name to it because I'm
Yes.
petrified if it's wrong
Yeah.
and they decide to investigate it,
Yeah.
that's my career over with.
I know. And I keep on saying to my parents, like, I don't want to be your executors. Like, why? I went, because it's a personal liability.
Yeah,
And I don't want to, I'd rather give it to somebody who's got indemnity insurance, thank you.
yeah,
Because it is that involvement with HMRC and that sort of HMCTS type, one way
yes,
or another. And you go, yeah, I have to put my name to that.
yeah. And your client, it just, could you imagine going up in front of the for me, going up in front of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, going, "Yes, I'm a forensic accountant. What do you mean you didn't understand the implications of what you were doing?
Oh,
Just borrowing 10,000 from your parents' account to tide you over?"
yeah, it just the mind boggles, doesn't it? It's like, I took myself off down the rabbit hole, and I went on government website and found quite how many regulated professions there are.
Yeah,
There's a lot.
yeah,
There's a lot of people who then have a regulatory body that you then have to go and cap in hand to and go, sorry, I've kind of, in my personal life, I've done something that now has big consequences for my professional life, and I did not put two and two together because
yeah.
why, you know, so it sort of bleeds out much further, doesn't it, than you think,
It
these things.
it does, and I'm sure. Well, I know you as a solicitor, us as an accountant. I mean, as an accountant, we have to sign every year that we've not committed a criminal offence. Now, perhaps you don't have. That's not the same for every regulated body, but being potentially charged with theft
Yeah,
because you didn't follow quite the right procedure, and there's a sibling that complains.
I know. It's very uncomfortable, isn't it? Yeah, innocent until proven guilty, but it's still that hanging over you.
Reputation.
Reputation is an absolute reputation piece. Um, I mean, slightly off topic, but it does tickle me that back in the day when I used to get my Law Society Gazette, you
Oh
know,
yes, they were the best pages to read. Struck off for this, that,
straight
and
to
the other.
straight to the
Yes,
SDG pages.
yes. Same with the accountants. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, the first thing you did in your cup of tea was go to that. And I remember a opposition solicitor to me who'd been absolutely abysmal um, was named in there, and I took great pleasure in going, good. Well, that'll learn you for being unpleasant. There's no need to be like that. But the reason he got in trouble wasn't siphoning off money. He just had a complete moment of madness and just got off on a frolic of his own and got reprimanded and career over. And, you know, I, and I think, sadly, solicitors are often in the SDT for breaches of cleaning kennels and this, that, and the other. And and it is drummed into you. It's not your money.
Yes, yes. But also, I think what's hard for us is people know what we do for a day job. So they ask you for advice. And then suddenly you're giving unqualified advice, if you're not careful,
Mm-mm.
to people that are friends. And all you're doing is trying to help out. And it's like, yeah, I'm not comfortable with this.
No.
Because I've had a friend who's after their parents passed, he said to me, well, she sold the proceeds came to me. They went to pay off the mortgage that we built because we built an annex for her, so it went to fund that annex. And I'm like, you've still got an increase in the value of your house because your now deceased parent paid for it. How do your siblings think? What do your siblings think?
Yeah.
And you've pulled all your mum's money because you're actually doing her shopping.
Yeah. And
So
it's always that click moment, isn't it? Yeah. Oh,
yeah, so all I said was, "Do your siblings agree with this?" Oh yes, okay, that's fine.
that's fine. We'll just park that one and move on. So, I mean, the other sort of area I think is always endlessly fascinating is the divorce work.
You
Guess you
just
like, of
like the stories, don't
course,
you?
I love the stories, the juicy stuff. I mean, it's
But it's even like this. I was talking to a potential referrer last week, and she's going to get £1 million house. That's what they're expecting, but she needs the maintenance then for the £1 million house. And he's like, "How are you going to fund that? How's she going to fund that
yeah,
when the other asset is a company
yeah.
and she needs that income? Aren't you better off having a smaller house? Because I mean, we all need £1 million house.
Of course,
I
do.
guess it depends where you live in the world, but I'm talking about the Southwest. There are quite a few.
It doesn't take a lot, does it, to hit that threshold?
No,
And
not
certainly
anymore.
certain hotspots, which we know where they are.
Yes.
And it really is that. Actually, it's very hard to do anything when you sit there and go, yeah, my house is easily £1 million any day of the week before you touch anything else.
Yes. But also almost to a point for you is I'm sure you've seen a lot of people come to you who haven't updated their will after separating from their now ex-partner.
Mhm.
And that must cause problems as well again with power of attorney, court of protection.
Yeah, and if they've finalised the divorce, there is at least a catch provision that if the decree absolutes through, it's as if the spouse has died, so they
Yeah,
aren't
okay, that's fine then.
scrubbed. However, how long a divorce proceed? I
Oh,
always I always say this: like getting married and having a wedding are distinct things.
yes.
Getting divorced and ancillary relief proceedings are different things.
Yes, yeah, very much so.
Divorce and getting married and getting divorced quite quick. Weddings very expensive.
Yeah.
Ancillary relief proceedings expensive and time consuming, and it's that grey area where people are already in the throes of, I don't want to think about this, and then suddenly they are themselves finding themselves, finding this. And we had a really really sad case once, and it was chap and his wife had separated. They never got round to dealing with the finances or the divorce.
Mm.
I don't think at the time there was anything that they particularly had. He then went on to do very well for himself and dropped dead and hadn't made a will. And she inherited huge amounts. And the rest of the family like, well, he didn't want it to go there, and her and her new partner and new baby are going to get all this. And we were like, you didn't make a will. Sorry. So we can hope that somebody's going to come around and go, oh, well, I feel guilty. I'll give up some of this. But understandably, she's like, well, no, I've got my child to provide for, and all this money's landed in my lap. And I think that there is this interesting piece, isn't it? Because, we deal with money one way or another all day, every day, because otherwise, if it wasn't saving money or preserving money or
Yeah.
recovering money, you wouldn't need us, really, would you? Because
No, not at all.
nobody's that bothered. And I think for that professionally is that fine line between like what I can do that is acceptable, what is very much not acceptable, and then that grey piece where you end up going, oh, I've been caught inadvertently. And so how would your main cases come to you in that sense? Because probably nobody sit a bit like nobody wants to talk to a solicitor. Is anybody sitting there going, oh, really fancy talking to a forensic accountant?
They like talking to us because of the stories, always the stories, but they don't want to instruct us because it costs money. Unfortunately, it costs money, doesn't it? Proceedings do cost
Yeah,
money. And so while they might be willing to say take tax advice or inheritance planning advice, it's sometimes by the time they get to us, it's too late for that. It's all gone horribly wrong.
yeah,
So we get work from solicitors, via barristers, um, and it's just keeping in touch, making sure we get all those bits and pieces out there in the public domain, like LinkedIn, just to make sure that people keep us in their periphery, really. But yeah, it's yeah, they like talking. We can talk, as you know,
hours and regularly do.
for
Uh,
hours.
and it's a funny one, isn't it? Because like we sit there and go, oh, it might not be for years that something
No,
crops up, but when it does, you need that to be done properly and well and accurately, and particularly in litigation, where
yeah, definitely.
getting that right ensures justice, and at a very fundamental level. That's what we're doing, isn't it? And I suppose my question is how much the how much is the what am I trying to say? I've lost train of thought. How much of it is like, actually what, where do you come in? Where do you add value? What do you do? Point.
So a lot of it is educating perhaps the solicitor and the client. So we can come in very early on in proceedings. So somebody thinks something's gone wrong. You can have a preliminary discussion at that point. The problem, of course, is when you say, yes, I'm happy to give you a free hour, but then you want to start charging and they just come back for more free hours. So
Hmm.
that gets tricky because you've got to be careful, as you well know, in giving advice that's not been properly backed up, and it's no client letter of engagement, no limitation of liability, all those issues,
Yeah.
um and know your client checks. But we can do it at an early stage. We can talk in round numbers, round figures, hypothetical scenarios. I'm sure you and I have spoken about, if I had a client that's got this issue, what would you suggest?
Yeah.
And as long as it's not written down, I'm fine. But then it's when you think something more has gone wrong, when the client actually perhaps understands and appreciates that something isn't right. That's where we can then come in and help support them and their case against whoever, whatever they're trying to achieve at the end of the day. If you leave it too long so that proceedings are already issued, you've got a danger that you might have missed something, or that we'll come back and say it's not cost effective and you've already started
Yeah.
down that route. Um, Occasionally we will get instructions from the police if it all gone horribly wrong and it has been reported.
Okay.
There seems to be a bigger emphasis on elder let's call it elder abuse because it is, or something similar to along those lines. And I think there's been, as I said, a bigger emphasis by the police, by Action Fraud, and it's soon to be launched successor, in trying to piece things together so that action is taken, because it's just depressing, isn't it? You read it in the papers and
Yeah.
it won't happen to us, of course not. So
Yeah, I mean, it is people's lives, isn't it? That sort of just being destroyed in this respect, aren't they? So, I mean, okay, so what would your, if you were people to do it properly, when would you like them to come to you?
when would I like when you are concerned, when one is concerned that something is not as it seems, there's an awful lot. I know it's nothing that you can actually run a set of proceedings on or anything like that, and it's not the best course of action. But I think most people know when something doesn't smell right.
Mm.
And that's when it's probably best to consult, whether it's a solicitor, whether it's a forensic accountant, just to say, does this seem right to you? And then it's a weighing up of costs and losses and everything else and outcome. Because in my opinion, there's no point running a case if you're not going to get an answer that you, not that you answer that you want, but we haven't all got endless money and time. And you've got to think about the cost in terms of your own time as an individual. The last thing when you're trying to say perhaps look after your parents
Mm.
is to be fighting your siblings over 20 quid,
It,
200 quid,
it's fair,
2,000
isn't it?
quid.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is that cost.
20,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where is that line for you? And I think that is right. And that's a really interesting point that, because I'm forever saying to people, going, I'd rather you ask me the question, and I went,
Yeah.
no, that's not me, or yes, there's something in it, then we can build it and layer it, than coming in screaming at last minute, sort of planning versus crisis management. So it's interesting to yeah, that you can say, actually, yes, technically there might be an issue, but is it worth taking it further? Because that sort of perception of I want to do it.
And you won't understand. It's really hard to appreciate, I think, for those of us not doing this as a day job, how exhausting litigation is for the individuals concerned.
Mm.
And sometimes tactics are that they just play to that exhaustion, that the individual in the end will just go, I can't deal with this anymore, I'm going to walk away.
And I can absolutely understand that when you sit there, you go, well, we can at least go home and shut the door. And it
Yes.
is day in, day out, this, and there is an exhaustion to it, isn't there? And I suppose your role in the accountancy is to go, right. Let's deal with that big piece that actually is big enough and worthwhile enough to take it to the bitter end because it's the right thing to do. Um,
And there's no point going after somebody, if they haven't got the money. I mean,
no,
that's when you need to hand it over perhaps to the police and they can do something with it because they've taken 2 million from somebody or 200,000 from somebody that they shouldn't have taken. And they've got that, they can't now repay it because it's whatever been spent somewhere along the lines and there's nothing left to show.
yeah, and I think it's sad, isn't it? Because
Mm-hmm.
if we didn't get people didn't get into hot water, you wouldn't need us. But I think we probably are all both in that space again. We'd rather not have to unpick this. We'd rather you can do it properly, and there's ways of doing it. But if it does need to be unpicked, and you do find yourself in that sort of criminal court space, then it's got to be done properly.
It's got to be done properly because otherwise it'll just fall apart.
Mm.
And that's the problem, isn't it? It just, yes, you don't want to put yourself through all that heartache and watch it fail.
No, no, and yeah, and as you say, nobody wants a Pyrrhic victory either,
No.
because that's no good, is it? But interesting. I mean, I know there's lots of cases we can talk about, and things and what have you, but I think for me the fascinating thing is that the legs these things grow.
Mm,
split-second decisions become massive, whether the police are involved, whether it is, as you say, in the divorce sphere, making
mm,
sure that there is that equality, parity on ancillary proceedings, whether it is that actually, no, you shouldn't have, pressed the button to transfer that money from dad's bank account. And do you ever feel that with the litigation in courts, that once it started, it ain't stopping?
Gets a life of its own, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
runs and runs and runs if you're not careful. Yeah, yeah. I know I've had on nothing to do with quarter protection or capacity issues, the number of times that clients just don't, we're going to sue the so and so. We don't care what it costs. So their sense goes out the window,
Mm.
or just, I'm not engaging with these proceedings. And then you're thinking, but they're against you. You've got to engage. And then they just don't. And they have cost orders against them. Oh, we'll just pay them. We're not engaging. And you're like, what?
I was somebody said to me, litigation is like dancing with a gorilla. You stop when the gorilla stops.
Yeah, yeah. It just, I wouldn't think, I'm amazed litigation still carries on like it does. I know why it does, obviously, because people are doing silly things like breaching contracts. But just, yes.
There's an easier life to be had, isn't there?
Oh, there is. And it is a mad world. I mean, it's just, I've got just finished a case at the moment, which fortunately settled at mediation. But the other side solicitors was emailing me direct. I've never had that in a case before.
There's
Never had
rules.
that. There are rules. And I just saw that where it come from, what the case was, and I just ignored it.
Yeah.
I didn't even open it until my solicitor said, "What do you think about what they've said?" I said, "I'm ignored it. I'm not opening it."
No. They have this protocol for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. So, if anyone wants to find you, how will they find you?
I am at Opus Forensic Accounting. Um, my email address is helen.gregory at opusllp.com. I've got that now. I'm not typing
Excellent.
the old one. And I don't know my landline number, but my mobile number is 07971 269 337. Alternatively, I'm at many coffee shops in and around Queen Square in Bristol.
Where better place to find yourself? It's where it's all going down.
It is, although you've changed your other meeting room now, haven't you?
I have shifted about 3 blocks over.
I know I'm near your former meeting room.
Yes, yes. So meeting room 7.
That's what it is, meeting room 7, yes.
Yeah. Helen, delight as ever, really
Thank
interesting,
you.
and no doubt we shall both be kept in plenty of work over as people
Oh,
do
yes,
do things that they perhaps ought not to, but likewise, we are happy to try and prevent
yes.
difficulties, aren't
Prevention is
we?
better. Yes.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much. It's been a
Pleasure.
delight speaking to you.
Thank you.